Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Weighing, the League of Legends talk show. I am your host, Josh Weight, and here's my constant co-host and brother, Ollie. How are you doing this morning, Ollie?
I'm very good, thank you, Josh. How are you?
It's excellent, thank you. Are you excited to talk about this week's
I
games?
am. It's been an interesting week.
If
Lots of
for an
upsets.
interesting meet might be an understatement, definitely. But before we do that, we obviously just want to talk about the general League of Legends scene at the moment.
Mm,
Before we start diving into North America's, Europe's, and Korea's games. So I'm going to hand over to you, Ollie, because I know that you want to talk about the patch that we're currently
yes.
on and maybe next week's patch, because obviously that will have a massive impact on the games that we've had this week.
Yeah, so I think this patch right now has been quite a weird one to be honest. But we've seen some big like champs come out recently, especially like in the bot
Yeah,
lane. We've seen Caitlyn do extremely well this patch. We've seen
the
Senna
Caitlyn
being
has
played
come up.
ADC a lot, which is quite nice to see. But I'm really excited for the next patch, which is coming out on Thursday. Actually, they've been sort of teasing it in the client recently, and they're releasing the new
Yeah, and so
champion.
that's what I was about to say. And I have to admit that I don't know anything about Yone, where I've been watching so many of this week's games and kind of trying
Mm,
to wrap my head around Sona Lux bot lane. I haven't really had a chance.
yeah.
So, what does this champion do? And obviously, we won't see it in competitive play next week, but probably for the playoffs, we're going to be seeing this. So, could you talk more about exactly what this champion does?
Yeah, sure. So it's in terms of lore, it's Yasuo's brother. Um, and there was a really Riot released a really cool cinematic. I definitely recommend you go and watch it if you haven't. Um, Basically introducing him, and he pretty much looks like a kind of a Yasuo copy. He has a couple of knockups in his tool set. Plus, he's like a melee fighter with the lunge, the same way Yasuo does with his Q.
Yeah.
Doesn't have like the wind wall abilities, but he does have a really nice big knockup ult, the same as like Yasuo can do.
Mm.
So it seems that Yone and Yasuo will work really well together in
Okay.
game. But I'm
And
not
now, obviously,
100% sure what role that Yone would
we've got
play
to,
yet.
yeah, we've got to see where the numbers land, obviously, with the kit. But do you expect this as a possible pro play pick, or do you think it's going to kind of stay as one of those solo queue monsters?
It really depends, I think, on where people play or what role. Right now, it's looking like he'll probably be a mid laner. So, to be fair, his tool set looks more versatile than Yasuo's. So I would imagine he probably will get some play in pro play at least.
And yeah, because we are seeing Yasuo at the moment.
Exactly, exactly. And Yone seems a bit more like a just a more versatile champ. So
Hmm.
it should be interesting to see at least.
Well, brilliant. And that one launches this week, Thursday. So
Yes,
it
6th
will
of
be hitting
August.
pro play for the playoffs of EU and NA, I believe. And then uh, God, week 9 or 10 for Korea, probably.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Anything else you want to talk about the kind of current patch that we're on? Obviously, we've seen the absolutely massive rise of Caitlyn
Yeah.
going from basically 0% pick and pro play to what's looking like a powerhouse, actually, both in and out of the lane.
Yeah. She's very good, especially at the moment. She's very good at just being able to zone in the bot lane and force those early trades, which can gain you and your support a lead and getting that level advantage early and the CS advantage. It's very important for that to be done on bot lane, and Caitlyn does that so well at the moment.
Yeah, and that's definitely has translated through to the pro games. It's not just a solo queue monster
Yeah,
at the moment. It really is. We've seen, I think I've got it here. We've seen it played 6 times already in North America alone.
yeah,
Um, it's got 50% pick rate at the moment, and admittedly, it's only a 50% win rate. But in the games where it is working, it definitely looks pretty monstrous.
mm, without a doubt.
And I think if you're happy to start talking about this week's LCS games,
Yeah, absolutely.
um, So this was week 8 of the LCS, and definitely a shocking week. And one of the teams that really jumped on the Caitlyn hype train was TSM this weekend, using it in both of their games, securing victories in both of their games. Let's talk about the first game first in EG. TSM looked pretty great in this game, at least in my opinion.
I agree.
And I think Bjergsen was the standout carry on his Zillion again. Really was, you know, controlling space really well in the game. Every single ultimate from this Zillion looked amazing. He just had the timing down, and none of them seemed to whip.
I agree. The way that he pretty much just used his crowd control to his advantage, getting those early picks as well, being
Mm,
able to find people during the late game as well, and pretty much just carrying his team to victory was
yeah,
really well done.
definitely, definitely. And like, it's been a while since we've been very excited about Bjergsen, but the fact that he's like TPing in for flanks on Zillion, he starts a fight, gets low, uses one ult, goes back to base, TPs in for a flank, and then
Yeah.
finishes it out with another ult to save a teammate. Like, you know, you have to be worried about the Zillion pick, right? When you're going up against TSM in these best of fives.
Yeah, I feel like Zillion's probably not someone you would usually be scared of, but when Bjergsen's on it, you might want to watch out now. Teams are definitely going to be wary of that pick.
Yeah. And that wasn't even the most surprising game for TSM this weekend, because we have
No.
to talk about their game last night against Cloud9. Give me your
Yes.
thoughts on that.
I thought it was in just C9 just didn't look with it in that game. I thought TSM looked really great though. Double lift, great on Caitlyn. Again, that Caitlyn pick being super strong for them. Um,
Absolutely amazing.
Winning top with Irelia as well, which was really impressive.
Mm.
Versus the Kennen.
I wanted your opinion on that matchup, because I don't know if you were listening to the casters during the early laning phase of that game, but they were kind of talking and they were split whether or not they thought this was an Aurelia favored matchup or a Kennen
Yeah.
favored matchup. And if you look in solo queue, it's like between 1% and 2% Aurelia favored. But what's your opinion?
To be honest, I would probably say Irelia just because of the way that she can move around, especially when she hits 6. If she gets a big ult on Kennen and Kennen doesn't have kills or the farm lead, then Irelia wins that every time, in my opinion. But I
Yeah,
guess it really just depends on who has the lead and effectively the better jungler. Whoever can gank that lane and get their laner further ahead, then that's gonna win. And that's what happened to Irelia in this case. So
yeah.
hard winning the
I mean,
lane.
it looked a little bit strange, and I think that the Doran's Ring start by Licorice on the Kennen didn't didn't feel great to me. I know there's been a little bit of talk around this, and I read a really good tweet actually by uh, a masters level Irelia top one trick.
Yeah.
No, Kennen top one trick, sorry. And so there were lots of people saying, should he have gone Doran's Blade? Should he have gone Doran's Shield? He decided on the Doran's Ring, and I think he really got punished for that, actually.
Yes, I
Um,
agree.
I think the lane would have been a lot better for him if he had gone for the Shield,
Yeah.
personally. Because I don't think that the Kennen is really going to be auto attacking the Aurelia a lot. Like, yeah, maybe you get some Qs off, and that's really good with the ring, but it just seemed like he needed that extra defense, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Aurelia can easily win the lane though, especially because Aurelia usually will build Trinity Force first item. If that Kennen's coming at you with his E and his ult, you can just pretty much dash on him straight away with your Q and take him down to pretty low health very quickly. That Kennen's either going to run away or die, pretty much.
Yeah, and we definitely saw Licorice giving a lot of respect to Broken Blade. You
Yes.
know, sitting back, not actually farming all the time. Uh, and Broken Blade played that really well. He kept a good freeze. He really zoned
Yeah.
the Kennen off the
And especially
minions.
dodging the shurikens was a key part of winning that lane, in my opinion.
Yeah,
especially
And
on Irelia.
he looks like he's working really well with Speaker. This is one of the best games I think we've seen from Speaker this whole split. Going up against Blabber, you always knew that was going to be hard. And you know, Cloud9 early picked the Volley Bear, which is a really, really, really strong jungler for Blabber. But he just didn't,
Mm.
at least in my opinion, he didn't feel like he was doing anything. And Speaker playing the set really well, just supporting his top lane so much, and the roams from Bjergsen on the TF once again, kind of using this individual prowess that we talk about to snowball his top lane and bottom lane was really impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially the set pick's very strong at the moment. For
Mm,
TSM, looking really, really good with that in their team comp.
yeah, and so my question to you, Ollie, is do you consider Bjergsen an MVP candidate yet? Because you know, start of the split, you know, Cloud9 went 9-0. We were kind of talking about Blabber or Niski being clear front runners. They've started to
Yeah.
struggle a little bit now. A lot of people are really hot on Core JJ, less so on Jensen now, but Core JJ definitely is the biggest factor for his team.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
TSM really wouldn't be able to function as much without Bjergsen. So do you think he's kind of getting into that second place candidate for MVP at the moment?
I would say he probably is up there for me. I'd say top three without a doubt, just because of the way he's been able to transform the team recently effectively. I'd definitely say Core JJ is still up there for me because the way
Yeah,
he's
it's
worked with Team Liquid, they're doing so well at the moment, and they're still
they are.
first place. Like, and I'd say probably
Is he your front
Jensen's
runner
up there
then?
for me as well.
Really?
Yeah, I think
So
he just like excels above anyone else in the carry lanes on that team.
who would you rank? Go and rank me your 1, 2, 3 then.
So at top, I'd probably give it to Core JJ.
Hmm.
Second, Bjergsen, and then third, probably Jensen. But then again, it probably would. My third place might be from someone from another team, just because two people from Liquid is a bit like you've already got
Yeah,
Core JJ doing so well on that team.
I would have to go. I agree. Probably Core JJ deserves the MVP first place, and I think Bjergsen, especially if you look at the surge that TSM are having around him at the end of this split.
Yeah, that's
But
very
I
true.
think third place, I might still give it to Blabber. I'm going to be honest because I know
Yeah.
we feel a little bit cold on Cloud9 now, but
Mm.
they are still tied for second place,
True. That's true. And
and a lot of that comes from him.
yeah, yeah, true, true. Niski's still a very good player though, and he still does very well for his team. I'd say he's still like definitely a candidate for me. Not top three, I don't think, but
I I don't know if I can consider him a candidate anymore because he doesn't carry like the other people that we think of. And don't get me wrong, I think that he's amazing at playing this Doinby-esque style of helping out Blabber, but my vote will always go to the person who is really doing a lot of the heavy lifting, which I think in this Cloud9 lineup is Blabber over Niski.
yeah, yeah, I can see that definitely.
But it was a rough week for Cloud9, admittedly. They had their loss to TSM on Sunday night, but even before then, they had lost to Golden Guardians.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's a
just
shock.
unfortunate.
That is a genuine shock
I
on
mean,
Saturday night. Like,
Golden Guardians had a 2-0 weekend, which was just very impressive from them to be honest.
yeah, and they looked great. Like coming into the Golden Guardians Cloud9 game, both teams had pretty standard team comps. Admittedly, Blabber was on more of a supportive pick in the Trundle, but
Yeah,
you know, Niski got his Zoe, so you kind of expect this team to be a peak Cloud9 performance. And
mm,
it was a good performance by Cloud9, don't get me wrong, but Golden Guardians just look like they're having a late resurgence at the moment.
yeah, I agree.
And you know, Demonte in the mid lane really does look like he is having a renaissance. And almost being justified in giving this position back to him after being out of the league for so long.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
But it is disappointing, I think,
Yeah,
from
for
Cloud9. And I
Cloud9,
know,
100%.
having read some of their Twitter posts, I know they're really unhappy with how the end of the split is going.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can imagine. I mean,
Yeah,
they've
I
had
mean,
a 0-2 week. It's not been great for them.
it's their first O2 week in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean they've been
It's
having
insane.
like they've been having some really good games recently. Like,
Mm.
they did lose to Liquid the other week, right?
Well, so this is a very interesting stat for you, Ollie. Cloud9 went 9-0 in the first round robin,
Yeah.
and they're now 2-5 in the second round robin.
Mm, mm. They've had a
Are we hitting the panic button yet on Cloud9?
maybe losing to 100 Thieves was not their best game by a long shot.
I mean, they're losing a lot.
They have been.
Like,
I
I'm
guess
trying to
the
find
the
when they
loss to
started
Liquid
losing.
is
Right,
pretty expected, but
yeah, but they've lost to 100 Thieves.
yeah.
They lost to FlyQuest
Mm,
and EG. No, sorry, they didn't lose to FlyQuest. Sorry, 100 Thieves, EG, Team Liquid, at TSM and Golden Guardians. So the TSM and the Team Liquid ones, I can be a little bit more forgiving, but
yeah.
100 Thieves,
Yeah.
pretty bottom of the table, although they are doing well. EG look in disarray at the moment,
Mm,
and losing to them really isn't great. I mean,
true.
and like, I don't know where the magic has gone for Cloud9 right now. I really don't. I don't know what they can do. They were trying some different things and they lost. They pulled out the Sona Lux 2 weeks ago against Team Liquid, and yes,
Yeah.
they lost that game, but that wasn't because of the pick, at least in my opinion. It was because Cloud9 played bad against Team Liquid. Team Liquid just played better, and that was another MVP performance from our man Core JJ on the Blitzcrank, just
Yeah.
absolutely destroying that game. He really did pick all of Team Liquid up and carry them to the victory.
Yeah. I mean, he's playing out of his mind at the moment in the past few weeks.
He really is. And so, do you think now, if we look at the standings after week 8,
Yeah.
we currently have Team Liquid in first place, 2 wins ahead of Cloud9 and TSM tied for second place. Is Team Liquid the best team in North America now?
I kind of have to say yes, just because they beat Cloud9, the second place team. Well, they were the second place team, now drawing with TSM, obviously. They beat the
Yeah.
second place team 2 weeks ago or a week ago now. I just have to see them as the best. Along with TSM beating Cloud9, it will be very interesting to see Liquid versus TSM. After that game, I'll be able to make my mind up a bit
Yeah.
more, I think. But for now, I think Liquid, without a doubt, is definitely top two, if not the first place. I'd probably give it to them.
Okay, that's interesting. So my biggest concern when I look at Team Liquid is just their style. They're so slow. And I
Yeah,
know that can work really well in North America because traditionally North American teams make a lot of mistakes.
yeah,
But that doesn't fill me with hope going into Worlds at the end of the year. We've seen how many times have we seen this kind of like perennial slow North American team get absolutely destroyed by the Europeans or the Chinese?
yeah.
Like even the Koreans can just do that slow style better, you know?
Yes, I agree. I agree. But we'll have to see definitely
Maybe. I mean,
because
so you say that Team Liquid is probably the best team in North America, but let me ask you this. Say we send Team Liquid, Cloud9, and TSM to Worlds. They're the
mm,
top three now. Who are you most excited for at Worlds? Because for me, it definitely isn't Team Liquid, even if they are the best team at the moment.
from NA, who am I most excited for?
At Worlds, yeah.
I would probably have to say TSM, just because of their flashy style. Bjergsen at Worlds could do really, really well.
That would put my
It does
argument
excite
right.
me, but I'm not sure they would do the best.
I think I don't know. I mean, I just see Team Liquid getting destroyed by another fast-paced team, and maybe you look at Cloud9, you look at TSM, although they're not as consistent as Team Liquid, if they make it through to quarterfinals and get these best of fives, I believe that they'll be able to get more wins in a best of five because, yeah, some games they're going to get stomped.
Yeah,
That's the nature of these more coin flippy teams. But with the skill on both Cloud9 and TSM, I believe they've got a better chance of winning some best of fives against the Korean and Chinese teams.
I just think that if any of those top three teams from NA were to make it to the quarterfinals or the semi-finals and they come up against a team like DRX or Damwon, they just don't win in any way because they just have a better playstyle. They play
That
faster, flashier. They will just outplay you, and there's nothing you can do
very
against
well
that.
might be true, but we'll talk about those later. The other thing I do want to talk about in the standings is obviously the top two spots currently for North America get the bye. So they go straight to the upper bracket semi-finals,
Yes,
which is massive
it is.
because
It's
not
huge.
only are you getting double elimination, but you don't have to play in the quarterfinals.
Uh-huh.
And with Team Liquid basically guaranteed a top two finish, if not first place,
Mm.
it is kind of down to TSM and Cloud9 to see which one of them can lock in that second bye.
Yeah.
And Cloud9 face Dignitas and CLG. So they definitely have a significantly easier week than TSM, who play Golden Guardians, so we might consider that a win.
Yeah.
Then they have to play Team Liquid in their last game.
That is definitely going to be a tough one.
And that'll be really tough. But the interesting thing is, if these two teams tie, either they both go 2-0, they both go 1-1,
Mm.
there will be a tiebreaker. So we will see
Yeah.
next week possibly another TSM C9 game.
No, that'll be another interesting one.
It really would. And to make it even more interesting, I'm pretty sure as long as there aren't too many tiebreakers, those would come after the Sunday games.
Mm.
So we would see TSM TL on Sunday, followed by possibly TSM C9.
Yes, that would be a very exciting day.
Yeah. And there's obviously, it's quite unlikely that TSM managed to challenge for the top spot, but if by some if by some means TL lose to Immortals and then TSM can beat Team Liquid, they'll be tied for first place,
Yes.
which is absolutely insane for a team that we were both pretty pessimistic on at the start of the split.
Yeah, 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 true. It's it's going to be a very interesting time, especially right
Yeah.
now as we're coming to the end. Just to see what
Mhm.
happens. I'm very excited.
And so turning our thoughts to maybe the teams we're less excited about in North America,
Yes.
um, obviously, only two teams will miss out on playoffs because all the top eight go into playoffs
Yeah.
at this. So, who do you think is going to miss playoffs? Because although 100 Thieves and CLG are currently seventh and eighth right now,
Mm.
CLG have gone after their 4-2 start, have gone 1-9 in their last 10 games.
Yeah, CLG have been very disappointing recently. I'm not sure they will even make playoffs to be honest at this point.
Who do
Dignitas
you
and
put above?
Immortal. Who do I put above them?
Yeah, so currently everyone from EG above has locked their playoff
Yeah,
spot. So it's
yeah, yeah,
just 100 Thieves, COG, Dignitas, and Immortals, which are the four teams left to secure a playoff spot. So
yeah.
who do you think? Because I can't see a way that CLG turn it all around and make it to playoffs with 2 games left.
Well, you say that, but then you look at the other teams who are in the bottom four here, and it's just Just like who else do you really have to pick from there? Apart from 100 Thieves, I guess they have the win on CLG.
I believe in 100 Thieves. I really do. I think that although they are not an amazing team, they are clearly improving a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I
And
definitely agree with that.
you can always count on Sunday to win some games
Yeah,
for you.
true.
You
He
know,
is still a beast.
in last night's game against Immortals, on Sunday on the gangplank was absolutely amazing
I agree.
against the Lauren. He just solo carried that. He had twice as much farm at like 5 minutes into the game. Genuinely, he was stomping his lane, and the amount of damage that he was doing, going for quite a greedy build.
Yeah.
He was taking over that game, and I don't see why he can't do that against who are they playing next week? Dignitas and EG.
That's true. They've got a pretty decent week.
And so Dignitas play Cloud9 and 100 Thieves, which might be 2 losses.
Yeah.
Immortals play Team Liquid and FlyQuest. I don't see them winning either of those games personally.
Yeah, no, I mean the FlyQuest game they might have a chance, but Liquid will just dominate that game.
And CLG are losing to are going to play Cloud9 and FlyQuest. They might lose both of those as well.
Yeah, true.
And so I really do think that, you know, if CLG if CLG, Dignitas, and Immortals all go 0-2 this week, CLG just goes through.
Yeah, true. They
And
do. They could get a free pass.
I'm not excited about that. But I think the CLG are terrible. I just think the teams below them are even worse.
Yeah. I just really want to see one of these teams have a really clean 2-0 week and like earn that playoff spot, in my
I
opinion.
mean, it just makes them into playoffs. And I think that, you look at the top of the bottom, essentially, of the league in 100 Thieves, and I think they can do that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
They're the only team that I'm excited about, Um, they're currently, I think, 5-5 with the new lineup having brought in Contracts and Poom, and both of those guys look great. So I do
Yeah.
feel like they're the only one of these bottom teams that I have any real excitement for.
Yeah, true. And you can always count on Cody Sun to like do decently in some games, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. You know, and then if you get half a carry from Cody Sun and a carry game from
Someday,
Someday,
yeah.
they might go 2-0 next week, and then maybe they're looking at challenging really for the middle of the table. I don't think there's no way that they can get uh, like a playoff spot, but there is a chance they could be fighting for an upper bracket start because everything from the teams from third to sixth get an upper bracket start in the quarterfinals,
Mm,
which means they do get a double elim, and that will be a massive thing for a team like 100 Thieves. I think they would benefit so much from playing a best of five, even if they lose it, right?
yeah, true.
With the newer players, it would definitely be really beneficial, I think, for that team.
Yes, I agree. Without a doubt. And that's something they're definitely going to be pushing for, I'm sure.
Mm. Especially if we see teams like EG keep free falling, which I think they are at the moment. I'm not 100% sold on this Huni Golden Glue swap yet. It looks okay, but the team seems to have no soul without Jizuke. They don't seem to have a clear game plan that they want to play every single time.
I agree. I agree. They look like they're pretty much just all over the place at the moment, losing
Yeah,
games left and right, which is unfortunate, but
it's really disappointing because this is our third place team from spring.
yeah, yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame to see them do pretty like really well in that split, but now just not
Mm.
finding their feet in this split, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the other teams have really, really ranked up a lot,
Yeah,
which is great to see. It's definitely, at least at the top of the table, a significantly more competitive split than it was in spring. So I'm really pleased to see that, and it gives me a little bit of hope going
yeah,
forward.
I agree. It's nice to
Excellent.
see some teams do better.
Have you got anything else you want to kind of bring up from North America, or are you ready to head forward and talk about the good League of Legends? And by good League of Legends, I mean Europe, obviously, because
EU
um,
this week was crazy.
was
There were
was
some
crazy.
crazy games this
It
week.
really was. I mean, EU is always crazy, and again, they're in week 7, so it's their penultimate week.
Yep.
Super week next week. So this week, crazy stuff. Really setting up for and a crazy last week of the split. So where do you want to start?
Um, I guess we can start with just one thing I really want to talk about is the Sona Lux bot lane from
Yeah,
Mad Lions. That was
I
a,
love it,
it was just, it worked so well, so surprisingly as well,
and
and
it is genius.
it
I
is
think to bring it
very,
out
very
against
clever.
Origin. I think it's brilliant to bring it out against Origin because lots of European teams play a little bit more of a fast-paced style, and that's how you punish this Sona Lux bot lane, right?
Yeah,
Because they're really weak in the early game. But
yes,
the one European team you don't expect to do early game moves is Origin.
yeah,
They are the slowest team, and they just said, "All right, Origin, we'll play you at this slightly slower pace style." And I think Origin kind of realized that that Mad Lions were gonna play a slightly slower paced game
mm,
around the Sona Lux with the Hecarim. And admittedly, kudos to OG. They drafted quite an aggressive team comp. They had their Quinn, Rek'Sai, Syndra, and then Zyra Khan.
yeah,
But they just look so OG looks so bad when they try and do these fast-paced games. They really do.
I agree. It doesn't suit their style. From what we've seen throughout the whole split, they suit a more slower style. But coming against this, they probably just didn't really know what to do, to be honest, against the Solar
Yeah.
Lux,
I mean,
especially when it got into mid game.
they look so strong, honestly. And like we saw this 2 weeks ago from Cloud9, and that was the first time it was brought out in a major region. But that's not a lot of time to prepare for something that is really quite a significant change.
Mm, absolutely. It's never been played before really. Before Cloud9 did. I just feel
Mm,
like it works so well together. It's a really, really, really clever strategy. And I feel
yeah,
like if done right, it can be extremely effective. If done wrong, though, it can just lose you the game.
yes, it definitely can. And I think we'll come on to talk later about one of the LCK games where the Sonalux was really punished, actually.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
But although we talk about this great game for Mad Lions against Origin, talk to me about their loss against Vitality,
Yeah,
because that is really disappointing for me. Actually, I have a lot of faith, I have a lot of hype around this Mad Lions squad, and to see them struggle so much against Vitality, what happened?
Vit just looked really good, I think, especially in the bot lane, forcing a load of fights. Getting the early lead was like really, really important for them, I think, in that lane and in
Yeah,
the game especially. And the Lee Sin was just like on point in that game, winning the
yeah.
late game for them pretty much single-handedly, in my opinion.
Skeens got the MVP on that Lee Sin, and boy did he work hard for it. He really was channeling his inner shadow to sneak into those back lines and get some absolutely amazing kicks onto the
Yes,
members of Bad Lions to turn those fights around.
yeah, and with the team comp as well, it's like was really
Yeah,
nice. Played straight into that Lee Sin, perfect for him. He just had a
definitely.
yeah. Skins had a really nice
And
game, really easy
and
game.
also I think you have to talk about the standout performance from Cavo Shard on
Yeah.
this set. Taking it away from the jungle, putting it into top lane is something a little bit different that we don't always see. But his engages were amazing. They really were. The way he was positioning, coming into fights, using the showstopper into a great face breaker, onto, some of the less mobile members of the Mad Lions team, the Oriana and the Gangplank, really did struggle against this set from Cabochard.
I agree. I think Set's very strong, and especially Cabo's showstoppers were just really, really well executed in that game.
Yeah,
Hitting those
and they were
ultimates, being able to pin down his targets, just beautifully played.
and they were able to line up a lot of the CC really well around it. A couple of times with Cabochard going in, using a lot of crowd control to stun up members.
Mm.
You had the Caitlyn on Vitality's side putting down traps underneath those stun members. It just made
Yeah.
it so difficult for Mad Lions to position correctly in these team fights and actually kind of kite back and disengage a little bit like they wanted to do.
Yeah, I agree. It's their team comp was really well played. They've definitely thought about that a lot beforehand. The
Mm,
Caitlyn with Set and the Lee Sin as well. They've definitely thought about
yeah,
that team comp, played it in scrims, etc.
yeah, definitely. It looks great, and that's a great sign for Vitality. But it really shows that although we consider Mad Lions to be top of the table, they are not unbeatable like
Mm,
old G2 used to be. And we'll have to see how they fare coming into playoffs, because whoever out of Mad Lions and Rogue, whoever gets that top spot this split guarantees first place overall going into the playoffs, which guarantees them at least fourth place, which is a seed to go to Worlds from Europe this year.
yeah, it's four
And so
teams from the EU.
they really are fighting essentially to go to Worlds at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt, 100%. That's what it's all about right now.
Hmm. And those are the two teams that we see doing it. They're both tied for first place,
Yeah,
3 wins ahead of third with SK and G2. And I think Mad Lions have the tiebreaker currently over Rogue.
yeah,
I think. Let me look. I can't find the game. Yeah, they have that. Rogue lost to Mad Lions once already, and I think they still need to play next week on Friday. So if Mad
yes,
can beat Rogue in their first game of the week, even if they tie, they don't even have to play a tiebreaker,
yeah, true.
and they guarantee Worlds.
The same with like Rogue. Rogue had a game this week which pretty much would have guaranteed them Worlds rather, against SK. Just didn't
Mm.
win. It was
Was the
such a
the
disappointing game.
craziest game ever? Talk to me about that, because I know that was one you were
Yeah, it's definitely a
watching with
highlight from
your
my
mouth
week.
open. Yeah.
So Rogue looked extremely good in the early game. They
Mm.
got some really nice picks, had great dragon jungle control, but SK kept stealing their drakes.
Yeah,
Rogue didn't
and
get a
and
single drake in the first like 20 minutes.
the crazy thing about this is, right, is that we don't think of Rogue as the super strong early game team, but they were doing it right, and that's slightly unusual.
Yeah, they had like a 6 kill lead very early, had a 5k gold lead at 20 minutes, and all they needed to do at that point was just take objectives, win the game. It was
Yeah,
very very simple. They had everyone really fed.
and there was that pivotal moment around the third Drake, I think it was.
Yes,
Rogue having got the first two. No, sorry, SK having got the first two.
yes,
Rogue were in a great position to take the third dragon. You stop the stacking, really delay that soul, and it just gets stolen.
yeah. SK
And
forced
that
the fight.
and that would have been mad enough, right?
Yeah, that would have been mad enough. Rogue thought they had like a 7 kill lead or something. They were thinking, right, we need to get Baron, push this. They won the game. They were ahead on gold. It's all they had to do, and he missmited Drake,
Yeah.
and Sin just stole it on about 30 HP. It was just the
Oh,
most
it's
disappointing
just
thing.
heartbreaking. It really is, and that's such a not a simple thing to do, because obviously in those moments the adrenaline's going. You might make a mistake, but it just could have been a lot cleaner of a setup. They could have burst it down at the same time. They could have decided to turn on the Syndra, but it just seemed a bit indecisive to me from the
Yeah,
side
they
of Rogue.
just they I mean, SK forced the fight, which was extremely unexpected, I think. I
Mm.
think Rogue were just expecting it to just happen. Um, and then yeah, they SK secured the Cloud Soul, I'm pretty sure it was they got from the fourth Drake, and just pushed up, got like 4 kills and just won the game. Very very
Yeah,
simple for them to execute. The game switched pretty much immediately. SK playing that to their advantage, managing to get the Baron. I don't think they were even expecting to do that, but they got it and they won the game. So really well done to them actually. For
and it's these kind of sloppy mistakes from Rogue that will stop them from getting first place and getting that guaranteed world spot.
I agree. The Baron Smite it was so disappointing. You never expect to see that on such a high level of play. At your rank 1 EU team, you're not expecting that, but it's
Mm.
just it's just
And it'll be
disappointing.
it'll be very interesting to see what happened next week, because obviously all the teams are playing 3 best-of-1s. So Mad Lions and Rogue play against each other, and
Mm,
then Mad Lions have to play Misfits and Schalke, who we'll get to talk about later. Don't worry, we're going to talk about Schalke.
yes.
Um, and Rogue have to play against Vitality and Origin. And so you think most likely Mad and Rogue win their other games.
Mm,
So it will come down to probably that Mad Lions versus Rogue game. If Mad win, they're guaranteed first place. If
yep.
Rogue win, they end up 1 win above Mad at the end of the thing. So it doesn't even matter that they've only gone 1-1 against each other.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I think personally, Mad will probably take the game. Just because of the way Rogue looks so sloppy this week. It's just a little bit disappointing, but I feel
Yeah,
like we'll just have to wait and see.
it's very interesting because obviously we talk about both of these teams, Mad and Rogue, losing a game to a lower team.
Mm,
But the difference for me comes in that Mad looked really good in the game. They looked
yeah.
strong. It was Vitality having an amazing game, whereas it was Rogue kind of throwing the game, and
Yes.
SK were just there to catch it.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like SK's Syndra pick really, really worked well there because
Mm,
Syndra hit her power spike with Baron and the Cloud Soul and just did so much damage and Rogue just weren't ready for it. They weren't ready for that power spike that happened from pretty much no kills, just farming all game. The,
yeah.
the item power spike on Syndra was very, very nice and well played by SK.
Mm.
Rogue just weren't
And
prepared.
so another team who we might be excited about is G2. They look a little bit better
Yeah.
this week, actually.
I thought they had a really good week.
Mm.
I got some old G2 flashbacks, I can't lie, but we'll have to wait and see for that one. But I thought they had a really, really nice week, winning over Vitality and Fnatic.
Yeah, and both games looked pretty strong. Although the team comps were relatively standard, it wasn't crazy G2 stuff.
Nah,
The
pretty
play was
standard.
good, and Caps looks great. That's the
Yeah,
thing that you really, really can. I think he picked up both of the MVPs this week on Zoe and LeBlanc. He just looks like a monster.
yeah, his Zoe was really insane. And I think if any team can play Zoe to like a really good level in the mid lane, it's extremely good, like extremely
Mm,
good. Especially Caps playing it out of his mind pretty much in that game.
yeah, definitely.
Played very well, and you have to give props to anyone who can pick up Zoe and do stuff like that and pretty much
Mm.
hyper carry.
From teams that we are excited about to teams that we're maybe less excited about, who do you want to talk about first? OG or Fnatic?
Um, let's talk about OG because Fnatic just hits a little bit too close to my heart.
So OG is another 0-2 week,
Yeah.
losing to Mad Lions, which is understandable, but they lost to Schalke as well. And
Yes.
uh, although the drafts were interesting, they had some more kind of unique plays in the first game. They did pick a Quinn counter pick top lane for Alfari, and they had the Syndra and the Lucian, and they decided to switch those, so Lucian mid and Syndra bot.
Yep.
It just didn't hit home. It wasn't feeling like Origin really knew how to play some of these different team comps.
Yeah, I agree. It was again really disappointing. They had some good drafts. In the drafts, I was excited for the games. I was excited for the games.
Mm.
I can't lie, but it just seemed like they didn't really know how to execute it. Especially with the ways that they tried to play in the game, it just didn't really look like it was their style. They looked out of their water. It was
Yeah,
just really really disappointing stuff from them again.
I know, and I think I have to wonder how well they were doing with these comps in scrims. Is this something that they had really practiced a lot and were very ready to say, this is what we've practiced, we're ready to go and do it? We had a good win rate on it. Or was it something where they were struggling a lot in this week's scrims, playing their slower style, and they thought, shit, we have to do something different. And they brought this out with less practice? Because that's the latter is what it looked like to me.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that's a good idea for them to be doing so late in the split.
Mm.
But I mean, they do have to try and do something different here if they want to make it to playoffs. But
I mean, they are joint seventh place at the moment,
yeah,
which is not good,
I mean
to put
the
it lightly.
standings are so close in the EU right now, pretty much from like third place downwards. There's 2 wins between ninth place and third place, which is pretty
Yeah.
crazy. Well, I guess
And I
joint
mean,
joint seventh and second and third place rather.
yeah. And I mean, that kind of brings us on to talk about the last place team in Europe
Schalke.
with Schalke. And this is a very different last place team to what we were talking about in North America, because these guys look great.
Yeah, they've had a good week.
They had another 2-0 week. They're currently on a 4-game win streak.
Doing really well at the moment.
They look great, and this is crazy. They went 1-10 in their first 11 games, and now they've gone 4-0. And it's not unreasonable to expect them to pick up some wins next week,
Yeah.
which could put them into playoffs.
I mean, yeah, they've been playing really well. Like especially with
They
that center on ADC, it's something I'm not a huge fan of, but they play it really well. So I have to give
pilot
them.
it so well, and the way that they can get the damage out on this even more supportive AD carry is brilliant, and the ultimate usage always seems to be on point, and they're bringing it into a team comp where it makes sense.
Yeah, I
I think
agree.
that's the biggest thing. You don't rely on, at least they don't rely on this center to be the main damage dealer. Admittedly, she can do a lot of damage, right?
Yes.
But they're picking her with things like a cool top and a Zoe mid against XL, and that looked
Yeah,
absolutely great. It really
they are
did.
not. They're
And
playing what you would expect to be a much better league than for a tenth place team.
yeah, and they excite me more than a lot of the teams above them in the
Yeah.
standings.
I mean, we even seen them earlier in the split do good against G2, picking up their I think that was their second win of the I think that was their second win. They beat G2, which in a really decisive way, absolutely dominated G2 in that
To,
game ages ago.
to start off the 4-game win streak as
Yeah,
well.
really well played. I think they had like 32 kills on G2 or something like that at the end of the game, which
I think it was something
which
insane.
they
They
absolutely
just
just dominated it.
really performed well.
Yeah, and we're seeing that now, and I'm really excited to be honest. To see what they can do
Yeah,
this week.
they They bring a lot. Yeah, it was 32 kills to 9
Yeah,
kills.
that is
Okay.
crazy, especially for
With
team like G2.
a, a 10, 1, and 8 Gilius on the Kazakhs.
Yeah,
God Gilius coming in really to save this team. He has done amazing. He seems to have given this team a lot of direction,
yeah, I agree, without a doubt.
and that's why it's looking so good. And he's picking up some of these more slightly damage heavy junglers. He's played in their 4 wins. He's played Kha'Zix, Nocturne, Lee Sin, and admittedly one Sejuani game, but three quite aggressive high damage picks allows this kind of more supportive bot lane in the center
Mm.
come out and actually do really well.
And I think Sejuani's actually a really good pick. I think she's really strong. She always has been, even though she's a bit of a more slow jungler compared to someone like your Kha'Zix. We've seen him play frequently, but still, he's very effective and he does pretty good on it as well. I think definitely a good
Mm,
pick, especially for late game. The ult can pretty much change team fights without a doubt.
yeah, and he looked great on it, and he didn't need to be that damage dealer because he had the Camille to pair with really nicely in the top lane in that
Mm,
game.
yeah,
And so I think if you go and look at the official LCS stats Twitter page, they're doing some really good content around the Schalke Miracle run at the moment.
mm,
So they have in 8% of the scenarios, Schalke are going to playoffs,
8% chance of playoffs.
which is crazy
Yeah,
for the last place team. And although they have a hard week next week, we'll have to see if they can do it because they do look great at the moment.
yes, I will keep my eyes peeled for those games. And they'll be playing Fnatic on Friday. Should be an interesting game. Shall we talk about
Yes,
Fnatic?
if we have to.
Just super disappointing stuff this week. Against G2,
Again, is the thing.
yeah. I mean, they just didn't look like they were with it at all. The only person who looked like they kind of knew what they were doing was Reckles. Again, self-made, really
Yeah,
letting me down on the in against G2 on his Lee Sin. Caps looking
which
insane in that game though, which was it's just disappointing to see Caps just absolutely destroy Nemesis in mid lane.
yeah, and it just feels like this team has been on a kind of gradual slump downwards ever since losing Caps and then giving up Broxer. I think lost a lot of the strategy and the soul of this team.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's just
And self-made is great, right? I mean, we can both agree that
yeah,
I think self-made is a great jungler.
yeah, but just had a really disappointing week. Didn't show up on
Yeah,
the Lee Sin, even though we've seen him do some crazy things on Lee Sin before. Just didn't
we have.
show up.
And admittedly, Fnatic are still in fifth place at the moment with 7 wins and 8 losses. But that's only 2 wins ahead of last
Mm,
place. So there is a chance that they're going to end up outside the playoffs.
yeah, I agree. It's which is just so which you would never expect. Uh, it's just been a terrible week. Selfmade didn't play great in either of the games, in my opinion. He was kind of the I wouldn't want to pin it on him specifically, but again, yeah, it's just I mean for Rogue, Larson had a great game on Azir. It's just
Mm-hmm.
nothing you can really do against it. Nemesis didn't show up, Records didn't show up, so neither did Selfmade. It's the people you would expect to show up and carry just didn't, and they haven't been for a little while now.
Yeah, disappointing stuff actually
Mm,
from Fnatic.
yeah.
And so as we come to kind of the end of the split with only 1 week left, who do you think is going to join Mad and Rogue to make the playoffs? Because it's only those top 6 teams that are in the
Yeah.
points.
Um, it would be so cool to see Shulker there, but we're gonna
Yeah,
have to wait and see how they do. I mean, been playing really well, but I would hope for a Fnatic to be there and G2 most likely, probably SK as well, depending on how their week goes. Um, seeing those 6 teams be there would be insane. Um, Vitality, probably not. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, Vitality had a 1-1 week, pretty standard stuff. So we will see.
Yeah, I think the teams that we kind of expect to make it going forward are your SKG2 and Fnatic. SK, because they look really good and they're currently in third place.
Yes,
And we kind of expect G2 and Fnatic to really win some games when it actually matters the most.
I agree. They always show up when it matters. Especially on stage.
Yeah. So we can hope that kind of will come through and transfer
Yes.
to the final week.
Yes, indeed.
Anything else you wanted to talk about Europe? Any other games that caught your eye?
I don't think so. I can't remember if there was anything else I wanted to talk about.
No. I mean, those were the main games that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
So let's go on and round out our first episode by talking about the LCK.
yeah.
Now, this is only week 7 of the LCK, as they have a 10-week split with not every team playing 2 matches a week.
Mm,
And, you know, coming into this week, it was definitely a battle of the top of the league versus the bottom of the league.
mm.
Barring the Damwon DRX game, it did feel like a lot of the better teams were looking to secure some more solid wins to solidify their standing at the top of the table, and
Yes.
that's definitely what happened. Some of these big powerhouse Korean teams took out the trash against the lower teams.
Yes.
Like, we look at Genji winning, like Genji with a really easy 2-0 against Seoul Haewon
Yep.
Prince, absolutely beating up on the bottom place team at the moment. And you have to feel bad for Seoul Haewon Prince, but Genji look great and they're having a real renaissance at the end of this
Yeah,
split.
I agree. They've been playing really well recently.
Hmm.
They've been working their way up the standings for a long time now, and they've got that third place spot. So really well done to
Yeah,
them.
and I think they deserve it. They look like the third place
I
team.
agree.
Not
Even
they're not.
above those big names like T1 and Afrika Freaks.
Yeah. Um, the biggest game of the week definitely was the Damwon DRX game.
Yes, 100%.
Having having only played 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, sorry, um, DRX secured that first win, 2-1. However, I think, at least in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, Damwon looked like the better team in that first series, and that's definitely what we got to see this time.
Yes, Dam at least in game one, absolutely dominated the game. They
Yeah.
they didn't let DRX get into the game whatsoever. It was a 28 to
Mhm.
3 in kills or something like that in that game. And the gold lead
Yeah,
was like
it's crazy.
20k by the end of the game. Just absolutely dominated them. Showmaker obviously doing as he does best on the Zoe. That was a great pick for game one.
Yeah, he looked amazing on that Zoe, really, really controlling the mid lane
Yep, and
against
Canyon
what was
setting.
an interesting draft, a really interesting draft from DRX in that first game.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on the Heimerdinger Senna bot lane that DRX brought out against Aphelios Thresh?
Well, I think it could probably be like a big if it succeeded, it would have been good. I feel like, but unfortunately, we just didn't get to see it shine in the game. Maybe they'll play it again. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, it did what it was supposed to do in the early
Yeah,
game,
yeah,
right? They were constantly pushing in the lane.
yeah,
They had quite a lot of pressure, but it just didn't seem to do enough in the mid to late game. Whereas, the Aphelios really started to take off.
yeah. I feel like the goal with this bot lane was just try and get bot priority early game. Make sure you can secure those
Mhm.
dragons and those objectives early game. Unfortunately, it just didn't translate into mid
Yeah,
or late, and for them, they just got ruined.
and that's and that's the crazy thing because um, you know, when we look at these two teams being the two top teams from Korea, their bot lane is one of the biggest mismatch points. For the side of DRX, you've got Deft and Kyria, who look like possibly the best bot lane in Korea at the
Yeah.
moment. And someone definitely have you know, a less carry oriented bot lane, especially with Ghost. Beryl has looked amazing all this split, definitely. But Ghost traditionally hasn't been the super hard carry bot laner, but he looked amazing, especially in that first game, ending up at 5-1 and 8
Mm.
on the Aphelios, really taking opportunities against this DRX side.
Yeah, I agree. I think he played really well. Aphelios again being really strong, before the nerf at least.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, and I think that the set pick was really good. Canyon played extremely well on set. Again, the whole
Yeah.
team comp just worked really nicely.
And now talk to me about the second game because I have never seen a team get more outdrafted
Yeah,
in recent history. I think that the team comp from Dan1 was perfect.
yeah,
It really
I
was
agree.
because they had Camille. Uh, wait, what's the team comp? Sorry, they had Camille, Carthus, Galio, and then the Senna Kench bot lane.
Yeah,
And I don't understand how the team from DRX, which was the Renekton, Olaf, Twisted Fate, and Zyra Khan, can ever beat this
yeah,
team.
I agree. It's
So
just
I
outdrafted
think
completely.
that the top lane mismatch is so massive. The Camille, although it may suffer a tiny bit early, it just immediately once you get to level 6 to level 8 kind of area, it immediately starts to beat this Renekton.
Yeah.
And the Carthus looked brilliant from Canyon. Showing that he can play that so well is also a very scary prospect for any teams they're going to come across in the last few weeks and into
Mm.
playoffs. Just absolutely taking over, massively out farming. He was almost 100 farm ahead against an Olaf at the end of the
Yeah,
game.
which is
Like,
nice. You usually expect an Olaf to just absolutely dominate the jungle at least, especially in
yeah,
recent
and
times.
this is and it's a great style from Showmaker also because yeah, they gave Chovy the TF, but they said we'll match that with our Galio on Showmaker, and Galio looked amazing in
Yeah,
this
I
game.
agree.
And I just think that was they really showed how flawed this DRX lineup can be sometimes um, against teams that are willing to play a little bit slower and really utilize some of these more scaling picks.
Yeah, without a doubt. And just the usage of their toolkits, their ability sets. I just think fucking Down One Gaming just played so much better, like in general.
Yeah. But apart from that, it was mostly 2-0s this week. We
Yeah,
had Dunwon playing a second series against Home Life Esports and
yeah,
pretty handily 2-0ing
yeah.
them.
That was an easy game for
T1
them.
had a great week this week. A team we should definitely talk about because they had a change in their mid lane, which might surprise some people.
Yeah,
But you look at the teams that they were playing against KT and Sandbox, so two middle to lower teams. And they 2-0'd both of those with Closer, their substitute mid laner, subbing in for Faker. In all 4 games, he started both series. And I think Closer looked really good. I would definitely like to see more of him. I don't know about you.
yeah, yeah. I know. I thought he was actually really good. Um,
And I mean, the picks that he was playing, he had one Akali game, but then he had his Zoe 3 times
yeah. I mean, his Zoe
at
was really
the
good.
game, and he looked great on it. You know, he really did, and he was able to control those games really well, and surprisingly so, work really well with Cuz. Actually, I think,
Yeah,
which is a little bit surprising for the substitute player. You wonder how much time they've had to practice together. And if it's not a lot and they come out with a performance like this, then that definitely is something to kind of look forward to, being able to change out these players possibly if you look at Faker maybe not playing some more of the aggressive picks as well.
I definitely agree. I think Closer's Zoe was really, really nice, and like you said, worked well with Cuz.
Yeah.
Especially in the games against T1, oh sorry, KT rather. I was particularly surprised by the way that he was able to just pretty much dominate the game, get a huge CS lead early, and just pretty much dominate. But
Yeah.
again, Teddy getting the huge CS lead, playing well on his Xayah in the first game there.
Yeah. And he looks great. And I think that's what you expect to be one of the stable points for this T1 lineup,
Mm.
definitely.
And Canna on the Vlad was really, really, really nice to
Yeah.
see.
Canna having some carry performances this week. He played the Camille twice
Yeah,
and looked great on both of it. And I think the Camille pick,
it's really,
LCK
really
is one
strong.
of the only regions which I think is using it enough because it looks
I
great.
agree. Yeah, the Camille top is so strong, especially late game.
Hmm.
If you can get it
And like you said,
six with Camille, and you can just pretty much you're able to roam, you're able to secure objectives, and you're able to solo kill. So there's nothing Camille can't do really, and she's great for
yeah,
team fights.
she looks super strong at the moment. And I think teams aren't willing to pick her up enough at the moment.
Yeah.
I think there's too high of a priority on champions like Renekton, where I would much prefer to be blind picking the Camille, actually.
Mm. Stronger laner, without a doubt.
Yeah, yeah, like maybe you struggle in the first like 10-15 minutes of the game, but it just makes it so unplayable for the Renekton against the Camille after 15 minutes,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, and it was a very straightforward week for the LCK this week,
Uh-huh.
so there isn't as much to talk about. And obviously, we can kind of touch on some of the standings implications, but we've still got 3 weeks left. So lots of these middle of the pack teams have got an opportunity to really decide their fate at the moment. The only teams that are locked out of playoffs are the bottom two with Hanwha Life and Seoul Prince.
Yes.
We've still got this block of 6 teams that have the opportunity to make it in or out of playoffs, with both Dragon X and Down being locked in as the into playoffs at least.
Yeah. It would be it would be interesting to see who will make playoffs with KT in seventh, Dynamics in eighth. It'll be very interesting to see who does well this week. I mean, we've got a few weeks left, so anything could really happen. Except
Yeah,
I'm not sure those ninth and 10th places are gonna make it to the playoffs, unfortunately.
they can't. They've been locked out now.
There you go. That's unfortunate,
Yeah,
but they haven't had very good splits at all. 1 and 12 for both of them.
yeah, which is unfortunate because you never want a team to struggle that much,
No.
but at least it does mean that the other teams, especially the ones towards the top of the playoffs, is still a very interesting picture to look at because
Yes.
we've still got, Genji and T1 fighting to simply secure a playoff spot. And hopefully they'll be able to do that next week. But if they start dropping some games to teams like Dynamics and Sandbox, it could get quite risky for some of those teams.
Yes, without a doubt.
And I mean, T1 play Dynamics, as do Afrika Freaks.
Mm.
And so we really could see the middle of the table start to compact if some of our perennially great teams in Korea struggle more.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You wouldn't expect Sandbox or Dynamics to beat either of those teams really though, but if they
I
do,
mean,
anything can happen.
T1 they may be less favoured against, but I think Afrika they actually have a decent chance to at least go to 3 games.
Yeah, true.
Especially with how good we've seen Rich being on the side of Dynamics. I just think that you can never quite count them out. And I think he'll have quite a good matchup into Keen on the side of Afrika.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be very interesting to see. We've got a few weeks left before anything's decided. So
Definitely. Okay, that wraps up the show for today. Unless you've got anything else you'd like to add.
I don't think so.
Brilliant. So thank you everyone for listening. You can find this podcast on YouTube as a video podcast on my channel. That's just Josh Weight, or you can search for Weighing In, the League of Legends talk show. Check out both of our Twitters.
Yep.
I am at Josh_Weight, I think, and you are
At Ollie_Weight_. They're below our cameras anyway.
below our cameras because I can never remember it, so I just put them down there. And this is also available as an audio version on Spotify and iTunes. So
all the links to these will be in the description as well.
Yep. And stick around because we'll have some more videos coming out in the weeks, and this will be a weekly podcast to be released every Monday.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy the games, and we will speak to you all next week.
Goodbye.